We have 13 weeks of pure excitement, pure learning, pure sharing, doing business together, bonding.
Idea extraction is your bedrock to building a profitable business.
Your business has a value, you have worth, and you need to be able to set your price. No matter how great the product is, it has to be marketed. If you have the cure for cancer tomorrow and you don't market it, no lives will be saved. Think about the challenges that we have and why your product or service is going to fill that.
You are the brand. We have to find our own unique value proposition.
At the end of the day, business is about money. And the big question you're always going to get, who is going to pay for this and how much money is it going to actually produce?
The only thing that you need to do is not give up.
This is going to be an exciting ride, ladies.
Storytelling and learning from each other is critical and key to growth, to mentorship, to advancement, and of course, to, sponsorship, not in the sponsorship in terms of money, but sponsorship in terms of working with someone and holding their hand literally and guiding them through the process. I call it a super champion. The interesting thing about resources is that you don't know what you don't know, and in the world of business, when I really made a pivot in my own business was when I saw the opportunities, and they're there for everybody. But what's interesting is that we don't necessarily, as entrepreneurs, we don't have time. We don't have time to look for where the opportunities are. We really don't. We only hear, like I'd hear that, so-and-so got this great opportunity with government procurement, or so-and-so has this great opportunity with, corporate, an organization in terms of corporate Canada. And the opportunities are there in a big way, but because we're so inundated and under pressure with pulling the business and managing the children and managing, the lack of resources in terms of if we have to do our payroll, we don't have funds for that. As a business owner, when I was going through the growth stage, I was always very stressed with payroll. Was my biggest fear. Payroll was my biggest fear. Payday comes and I have people who are waiting for their paychecks. They have their mortgages, they have their responsibilities. And, I didn't have credit lines, when I started, but we had to make that payroll. So it was only when, I went to a session and heard about all the different avenues of where I could be funded, and different resources available to me. That was when I sort of had a sigh of relief and release as I leveraged these resources. So ladies, we have some incredible guests here tonight, and ask questions, ask lots of questions. They're here, they're taking their time out to share their expertise and their resources with us. And I want you to ask, as many questions as you possibly can, because it is through the asking that we get the answers. It is through the asking that we get the answers. So thank you all, for being with us and for being a part of the journey. A few things I want to share. I don't know if you all saw the pitch competition that is put on by Ryerson Diversity Institute. BMO is a partner, Loblaw Group Company is a partner. The winning prize will be $10,000 to each individual entrepreneur that have succeeded with the final pitch. It is a contest put on because we recognize there was a study done on the state of the women economy, and we recognize the challenges that Black women entrepreneurs are facing. And I talk about it all the time that, there's a hierarchy of things and Black women are sort of under the lower rung. So part of this is to see how we can provide the tools and resources to level the playing field, have access to capital, all the things that we're challenged with as being entrepreneurs. And so the pitch competition, I think we're going to have an information session on Friday, the 18th. If you can join, please do. But I think what's great about the entire process is that even if you don't get to the final to get the 10,000, obviously that would be a great thing. $10,000 cash prize would do a lot for a lot of businesses. But if you don't get to that, we have Loblaw, and Fran will tell you more about our partnership with Loblaw, who's going to be participating, and they're going to be literally coaching and working with the women who participate in the pitch. I mean, and then we have BMO, who's going to be doing digital strategy and marketing. Myself will be one of the workshops. I will be talking about branding. You hear I talk about the value of representing yourself as a particular brand and what that means. I'll be doing that. There'll be another workshop in technology. And there's a woman by the name of Ejibola who runs an organization called Decedulous Women. And she has done a great job of coaching women through various pitches to success. She does it dragon style and then some. When she's done with you, you're ready. You're ready for any and everything. So even if you're not one of the recipients of the $10,000 prize, you will have a prize in the fact that your business plan, we have Futurepreneur as a partner, and all the what I call the business fundamentals that we need for success, we're gonna be working on that. So currency comes in different forms. The money is one, which is great, but the ability to build your business, open to networks, and get coached and mentored from leading specialists, from leading companies, and the ability that you're going to walk away with your business plan and your financial statements, that's a huge plus. So please definitely join in and participate in the pitch competition. All right. So I want to thank you very much for always showing up and being on this journey. And I see your car gal has a question. Do you have a question? I'll take it just before we introduce our guest speakers today. Or you didn't have a question? Your hand was just up?
No, I am so sorry. I didn't even know my video was on because I'm driving. Yeah, but good evening, everyone. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. Always, always, always great to see you. All right. So would you take it away to introduce our guests?
All right. We're excited to have a special guest here today. It's going to be very exciting. She has quite a lot to share. Our guest today is Jacinth Kisnell. I hope I'm getting that correctly. She's an outreach officer with the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises, OSME, the Atlantic region. She engages with the supplier community to help them to better understand how the federal government buys goods and services in an effort to make it easier for smaller businesses to bid on federal contracting opportunities. So please welcome Jacinth Kisnell. We're excited to learn more about how we can pitch and win businesses from the government of Canada. So Jacinth, I've made you a co-host already, so you can share your screen if you want.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to join you guys tonight in this event, the Boss Women Entrepreneurship Training Program. We really appreciate the opportunity to join you all tonight. So my presentation tonight is really going to focus, as mentioned, on the basics of selling goods and services to the Government of Canada. My hope is that this session will help you to decide if doing business with the Government of Canada is right for you and for your business. I will be talking about how the federal government buys the goods and services that it needs, and this is referred to as the procurement process. We will look at where you can find information that you need to register your business as a potential supplier of goods and services, and where you can find opportunities to sell to the Government of Canada. And this is going to include a very brief demonstration of our website called the Buy and Sell website. Essentially, I hope to leave you with some practical information and resources that you can use, as mentioned in the opening remarks, and services that you can access if and when you decide that selling to the Government of Canada may be a good fit for your business. Now, in terms of initiatives to support Black communities and Black businesses, over the last few months, we've all seen how the pandemic has hit racialized communities harder. We've also seen a number of incidents involving members of Black and Indigenous communities who were victims of acts of violence. And these recent events have brought more attention to systemic barriers and the effects of racism and discrimination in our country. And they've also been a driving factor behind long overdue conversations, reflections, and most importantly, action towards eliminating racism and discrimination in Canada. Now, the Government of Canada does recognize the need to do more to combat racism and discrimination in its various forms, and much work remains ahead to eliminate racism and discrimination and violence in our institutions and society at large. Following on the heels of the anti-racism strategy that was launched in 2019, the government recently announced the Black Entrepreneurship Program this past September. This is a partnership between the Government of Canada and the private sector to help Black Canadian business owners and entrepreneurs grow and succeed. So this new program is led by a different department than mine. It's led by the Department of Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, and it involves funds to support Black-led businesses in training and loans, and to set up a knowledge hub led by Black-led community and business organizations in partnership with educational institutions in order to research and identify barriers and opportunities. Now, historically, the participation of Black business community in government procurement has not been well documented. As part of these initiatives, more data is starting to be collected, and this will provide a better understanding of Black business participation in procurement and a better measure of progress towards equitable access to opportunity for all Canadians. In addition to that, just very recently, a few weeks ago in the fall economic statement, my Departments of Public Services and Procurement Canada announced that it will be launching a pilot program to open bidding opportunities for Black-owned or operated businesses. This pilot will support Black Canadians to secure important economic opportunities as part of the government's procurement process. And then based on the results of that pilot, our department, so PS Public Services and Procurement Canada, will examine opportunities to improve supplier diversity across the government. So more to come on that. It's a very new initiative that was just recently launched. So now I'll get into the more information in terms of procurement process, and I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen so I can share with you guys my presentation. And I will go ahead and just launch this little presentation. Oh, it went upside down. Just give me 1 minute here. Of course, it always does this. All right, I think I got it this time. There we go. All right, so as mentioned in the opening or in my introduction, I work for the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises, or OSME as we refer to it. And OSME is part of the federal department called Public Services and Procurement Canada. And our department is the main procurement arm for the federal government. So this means that we purchase a lot of goods and services for ourselves, but we also do a lot of purchasing on behalf of other departments and agencies. At the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises, our goal is really to make it easier for smaller businesses to bid on federal contracting opportunities. So we do that by working to understand the challenges and systemic barriers that are faced by businesses who are trying to obtain government contracts. We advocate for smaller businesses and for more diverse and more inclusive procurement among government buyers and policymakers. We also work to make it easier for smaller businesses to compete for contracts by improving our tools and our processes. And through partnerships with community organizations like the one that we've been developing with the BBPA, we deliver education and assistance sessions to diverse business communities. We provide awareness presentations like this one. We also deliver seminars and workshops that dive deeper into the different aspects of the procurement process. And we also provide personalized one-on-one assistance to help smaller and diverse businesses sell to the Government of Canada. So these different opportunities allow us to speak with suppliers and assist them regardless of where you are geographically or in terms of your experience as a business. So we have a network of regional offices across the country. So as mentioned, I'm in the Atlantic region, but each region across the country has an OSME office. And we're here to assist you. We're here to help you kind of follow the process and really tap into that market. At the end of the session, during the demonstration of the Buy and Sell website, I'll show you guys where to find contact information for your regional OSME office. So as mentioned, I just want to give you a sense of the significant opportunities that exist for small and medium enterprises in terms of doing business with the Government of Canada. The Government of Canada is actually one of the largest buyers of goods and services in the country, and we buy a very wide range of goods and services. So that's something that I've learned. One question that is difficult to answer is, what do you guys buy? It's almost everything. So it's a question that's difficult to answer, and I'm hoping that this will kind of lead you to the right place to figure out whether or not the Government of Canada should be or could be a client of yours. And that's also something that your regional OSME office can help you identify. So over the last few years, the total value of procurement contracts awarded by the Government of Canada amounted on average to $21 billion annually, and of which almost 72% of that was managed by my department, so by Public Services and Procurement Canada. And then the rest, about $6 billion, were contracts awarded directly by federal departments and agencies. And on average, the smaller businesses have won around 36% of the total value of procurement that was awarded by my department to suppliers in Canada. So that's about $7 billion annually. And if we look at contracts valued at $1 million or less, the share, the number of contracts that small and medium enterprises win is about 80% of those lower dollar value contracts. From 2016 to 2019, on average, small and medium enterprises received approximately 88% of the PSPC managed procurement contracts awarded in Canada. So there is significant opportunities for small and medium enterprises. We don't just buy from those big companies. Now, when it comes to doing business with the Government of Canada, there are federal laws and regulations, as well as Treasury Board of Canada policies that guide the government's procurement process. And that's really to ensure sound financial management of public money. These regulations are in place because it's important that all procurement activities be conducted in an open, fair, and transparent manner, and that all suppliers have an equal chance at doing business with us. So in other words, to ensure the integrity of the procurement process, there is a process that businesses must follow in order to do business with us, and that's what we're here for. We're here to help you understand that process. We can break it down into smaller steps to help you eventually do business with the Government of Canada. And essentially, the more competition that we have in the buying process will bring the best value for money to Canadians. We want people bidding on our opportunities. Now, within these government contracting regulations, there's an important concept to understand, and that's the notion of delegated purchasing authorities. So in many cases, departments and agencies will purchase from suppliers directly. Generally speaking, departments and agencies have the delegated authority to buy up to $25,000 worth of goods on their own. For services, this authority can be adjusted up to $2 million and then $400,000 for construction projects, but many departments and agencies have internal procedures that voluntarily reduce these amounts. So for purchasing requirements over these delegated amounts, departments and agencies can choose to work with us in order to solicit bids and go through the whole process. Now, this is an important thing for you to know, because if you wish to sell goods and services below these amounts, below these delegated amounts, you may wish to directly approach departments and agencies in order to promote yourself, promote your business, and let them know who you are and what you sell, and the services that you have to offer. So contracts under these delegated amounts, we refer to that as low dollar value procurement. So it's really in an effort to ensure fairness, a competitive process is used most often when procuring goods or services. The majority of contracts below $25,000 for goods and below $40,000 for services are awarded to small and medium enterprises using some kind of competitive process. This really aims to get, as I mentioned, the best value for Canadians while enhancing access, competition, and fairness to businesses. So this is really the area. So low dollar value procurement is really the area of federal procurement that is most like the way companies usually operate in the private sector, and especially for small and medium enterprises and businesses who provide services. So it's really built on identifying potential clients and building relationships. There's advantages and disadvantages to targeting this market as your strategy. Of course, it's a more familiar way of working, but there are hundreds of possible clients because every department and agency has the potential of becoming a potential client. And identifying the most likely can be time consuming. Departments and agencies may still require competition below $25,000, but it's more likely to be along the lines of requesting 3 quotes from 3 different departments or from 3 different suppliers, as opposed to issuing a 35-page request for proposal and going out to tender. Potential suppliers for these low dollar value purchases can be identified through networks and research. So, in terms of doing a Google search to find a business that offers that service or that good in the area. So having a website that is up to date and that clearly shows us what it is that you sell can be very useful. But we will also do that by consulting various federal supplier registration systems and databases. And I'll show you guys that. I'll show you where to find that on the Buy and Sell website when I do the demonstration at the end. So essentially, you can market your business directly to government buyers for those low dollar value procurement. And our office, OSME, can help you figure out which departments you should be approaching. And I'll also show you a resource on the Buy and Sell website that kind of helps you promote your business and identify who to reach out to. So now we'll talk about competitive procurement. So when we talk about competitive sourcing, we're referring to contracts over $25,000 for goods and over $40,000 for services. This process involves a tendering process. And just to clarify, sometimes I get this question. So the term tender means to invite bids for a good or a service. So federal departments and agencies will use our website, so the buy and sell website, to advertise their requirements and to solicit bids from potential suppliers. There are four most common types of solicitation methods. They're listed here on the slide. So an invitation to tender, that's when a buyer has a fairly straightforward need for example, off-the-shelf goods. They can issue an invitation to tender on the buy and sell website. The supplier who submits the lowest bid that complies with all of the mandatory requirements and all of the terms and conditions that is specified in the invitation to tender document will be awarded a contract. We use this a lot for construction tenders, for example. So it's really based on the business who meets all of the requirements and sends it or submits the lowest bid. The second solicitation method is called a request for proposal, or an RFP. It's often employed for more complex requirements where the selection of a supplier can't be made solely on the basis of the lowest price. So we'll use an RFP to purchase the most cost-effective solution based upon specific evaluation criteria. Examples of evaluation criteria include technical expertise, years of experience, and so forth. And these technical or these evaluation criteria are identified in the request for proposal bid document that you would use to bid on an opportunity. Among all bid solicitation methods, the RFP is the one that requires the most effort because it's not based on the lowest price. It's really specifications are performance-based and focus on the desired outcome. Now, we also use requests for standing offers and requests for supply arrangements. Those are essentially a way for us to pre-qualify suppliers. So a request for standing offer is used to solicit standing offers. And suppliers who meet the evaluation criteria that is listed in the request for standing offer document become pre-qualified suppliers and holders of standing offers. And then when a specific need for that good or that service arises, we can issue a contract to one of the pre-qualified suppliers who are essentially holders of standing offers. I'll show you where to find more information on that on the buy and sell website as well. It's something that's important to understand the difference between a standing offer and supply arrangement because there are tools that we use a lot in terms of doing business with the government of Canada. And that would be a good question to ask your regional OSME officer is, does a standing offer or a supply arrangement exist for what it is that I sell? And then that would get that conversation started. Another type of solicitation method is a request for supply arrangement. That's also used to pre-qualify suppliers. So we solicit arrangements from suppliers for the establishment of a supply arrangement. Suppliers who submit an arrangement that meets the evaluation criteria that is again listed in the request for supply arrangement document become pre-qualified suppliers and supply arrangement holders. And then when a specific requirement comes up, we'll solicit bids from just that pool of pre-qualified suppliers who are essentially the holders of supply arrangements. So the difference is a standing offer will issue a contract to the pre-qualified suppliers, whereas a supply arrangement, we invite the pool of pre-qualified suppliers to bid on a specific requirement. The tender notice that you'll find on the buy and sell website will indicate the method of procurement. So the tool, the way that we're going to purchase it, and will outline all of the information that you need in order to prepare a bid. Now, as I mentioned, and I've mentioned it a few times, contracts are awarded through various competitive processes, just like I listed. And this process requires you to submit a bid in response to these tender opportunities. Now, the requirements are listed in the bid documents that you find on a buy and sell website, and they can be quite specific. So you will want to make sure that your bid meets all of those criteria and that offer the best value for money. We actually offer a webinar specific on bidding on opportunities where we really go into more detail in terms of where to find the bid documents, what are the different parts of a bid document. We give tips and tricks in terms of preparing a bid. And we also explain how bids are evaluated and how successful suppliers are selected. And that's important to understand. So I'll show you where to find all that information on the buy and sell website. I've mentioned it over and over. So buyandsell.gc.ca is the official and free source that suppliers should rely on to find Government of Canada tenders. You'll also find all kinds of additional information about government procurement, about the process, about the different tools, and all that's available on Buy and Sell, which means that it will be one of the online resources that will be of great importance and help to you as you get started on your journey of becoming a supplier. Access to Buy and Sell is free. You don't have to register to find opportunities. You can search for opportunities using plain language, kind of like a regular web search engine. And then you can filter your search results either by region or by types of good or service that you provide, and so much more. You can also find procurement data on previous contracts that have been awarded by Public Services and Procurement Canada if you're doing research in terms of determining which departments are buying, what it is that you're selling, what the value of those contracts look like, who your competition is. So that information is all available on the Buy and Sell website. And then another useful feature of the Buy and Sell website is that you can subscribe to a web feed or an email notification service to automatically receive notifications when new opportunities are published. So instead of speaking through more slides, I'll instead move over to the Buy and Sell website and show you where you can find opportunities, how to register your business, where to find the information that you need to really get started and to reach out to those people who can help you through the procurement process, because you may not be there yet, but once you are, there are people here to really help you navigate the overall process. So just give me 1 minute here and see if I can do this without messing anything up. Okay. I just drag over the website here. All right, can someone nod their head? You guys see the website here? Okay, awesome. I'll just make it a little bit bigger. Okay. So this is the main landing page for the Buy and Sell website. So this is what you see when you go to buyandsell.gc.ca. Now, the top menu here is where you'll find all kinds of information that'll really help you understand more what I've said, because I know I've covered a lot of information. So if I just hover my mouse over the For Businesses menu item here, it'll open up a menu. And then I can choose whatever it is that I want. So this first item here, learn about selling to the government of Canada. If I click on that, it will take me here, which essentially gives you the information on the left-hand side here. So you'll understand the procurement process. So we really tell you, how it works, that we do to explain the difference again between competitive, non-competitive procurement. And then here to register your business, and here to promote yourself. So if I click on register as a supplier, for example, it will tell me that in order to register, I register in what's called the Supplier Registration Information System, which is a database of registered companies who are interested in selling to the Government of Canada. And essentially, when you register in this system, you let us know who you are, and you let us know what your supply capabilities are. So in order to register in SRI, it'll give you a procurement business number, and a procurement business number is issued by our department, and it's mandatory. It's a mandatory requirement to do business with us. You don't need one in order to search for opportunities, but if you do get a contract, you need a procurement business number in order to get paid. And then you also need a procurement business number if you want to register in other databases that we use to buy different sources of services. And that's something that we can, that's the whole other thing that you can have a conversation with an OSME officer. Now, in order to register, you'll need your business number from the Canada Revenue Agency. And your business number is essentially the first 9 numbers of your GST or your HST number. And then you'll also need your legal name. And that's the legal name that you're registered with Canada Revenue Agency. If you don't have any of that, there's contact information here in terms of getting that. So there are 2 steps to creating your account. So the first one, you'd click on this little link here, and it'll take you to the supplier registration information, and you'll enter your Canada Revenue Agency business name in the little box that tells you to, and then you'll enter your legal name, your business's legal name. And it's important that you enter the business number and the legal business name exactly as it appears in your CRA registration, because the 2 systems are linked, and if they don't match, it won't let you proceed. So you'll do that step. You'll enter your business name, your legal name, and then it'll ask you to create a username and a password. And then you'll receive an email that will have your procurement business number in it, and it will ask you to come back to the SRI system. There'll be a link in that email. And then when you come back, you'll enter the procurement business number that they gave you. You'll enter the username and password that you've created, and then it'll ask you for more information about your business. So your address, different contacts, and then it'll ask you to select your commodities. And a commodity is really just a good or a service that your company can supply. And you'll select as many that apply to your business. So you may just have one, but you may have a whole bunch of them. And when you select your commodities, there's going to be a little code next to it, and that's a goods and services identification number. I would suggest that you read up on that as well if you're at that phase, at that step in terms of doing business with the Government of Canada, because that will help you do search on the buy and sell website. So if you know what your codes are and you find those out when you register in the SRI, you can then use those codes to search for opportunities, and I'll show you where to put that in a minute. Essentially, there's more information here in terms of, if you already have an account, you need to update it. There's more information here. There's an info line if you need help to register. They're really great, very knowledgeable people. And then there's information here on where to find tenders. Now, the Government of Canada is moving federal procurement online, and during this transition, you may be able to bid on some tender opportunities through the new tool that is called the Electronic Procurement Solution. And if you click here, there's a little bit more information. So essentially, we're transitioning to what's called SAP Ariba, which is a web-based tool. It will eventually replace buy and sell, but until that transition is fully completed, everything that you need will still be on buy and sell. And if the opportunity you're interested in bidding on needs to be done through the new tool, buy and sell will automatically redirect you to this new tool. So we're in a transition phase, and we will be for the next little while. I don't think it's going to launch until probably spring or summer. But just so you know, it's a transition that is starting to take place. So you may have to register into databases for a little while. So that's where you would register your business. Let me just go back here to show you more information. So again, here, what I've done is I'm on the For Businesses menu, learn about selling to the Government of Canada. You have everything that you need here. So the procurement process, what I just talked about, how to register, how to promote yourself. So I talked about those low dollar value contracts. So those contracts under $25,000 for goods, $40,000 for services. And here, it'll give you all kinds of information in terms of how to find customers, different tools, tips to emphasize your unique features, how to focus your energy. So you can research federal government employees on the GC directory, which is a directory of federal public servants. There's kind of tips and tricks in terms of how to use the GC directory here. And you can find people who work in procurement, and then you reach out to them. You send them an email, you give them a call, you promote your business. Again, I'll just come back up to the top here. Next to the promote yourself, there's questions to ask. So it kind of gives you tips and tricks in terms of what to ask those people when you're contacting them, if you're interested in doing business with those low dollar value procurement contracts. So again, if you want to find opportunities, so bidding on opportunities, it will take you to the tendering service. And on the tendering service here, again, you have all kinds of tools that will help you out in terms of doing that. We also offer a webinar, a targeted webinar on finding opportunities, which is really an in-depth demonstration of how to use this buy and sell website. So we show you how to use search terms, how to filter your search results. We really go in depth in terms of doing business or finding opportunities on the buy and sell website. One more thing I wanted to show you guys, again, under the For Businesses menu item here, there's services for smaller businesses. So if there's two things that you take away from this, is this tab here, learn about selling to the Government of Canada, and services for smaller businesses. So this is really our services. So the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises, we tell you what we do, how we can help you. So again, here you can click here to find out which webinars. It will take you to an events calendar, and you can sign up for webinars. And then you will also have a tool here or a link here to learn to navigate the federal procurement process. Here we have all of our seminar notes. So the webinars that we offer, the notes from those webinars are found here. And then we also have a reference sheet that's called Getting Started Selling with the Government of Canada, and it breaks it down into different steps. So you can really, start with step one, and it gives you all the different tools and resources that you need in order to really get started selling to the Government of Canada. So again, where I went to find that information is For Businesses, services for smaller businesses right here. And then again, there's different ways, again, you get information on registering. And then here is where you can request assistance. So we have the national info line. We also have an automatic form that you can request a callback. And then if you click here, find an OSME regional office near you, you'll find them all here. So I'm here in New Brunswick, Quebec region, National Capital region, Ontario region, Western region, which covers Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and the territories, and then Pacific region. So each region is covered with a team of very knowledgeable people who are really there to help you, may it be navigate the buy and sell website, identify opportunities. If you want to talk about low dollar value procurement, we can get you started. So really don't hesitate to reach out to us. We offer, as I mentioned, those webinars, and then we also offer one-on-one sessions. So that's really us. That's really what we do. A very, very brief overview of government procurement, but it's really just to get you started. So I can plant the seed so you know what exists and who's out there to help you out. So I will stop sharing my screen now, and I imagine we'll move over to for questions and answers.
Yes, thank you so much, Justine. That was very in-depth. So just a lot of information. Thanks for sharing. We do have a couple of questions. Some came to me privately, but I'm just gonna read Nick's comment, and she says, as a small business owner, what are the important things that you suggest to have prepared for OSME to seek support, for seeking out guidance to be set up for success? I guess what she's trying to say, what are the success factors for businesses to win contracts with OSME?
So it really depends on the value of your business and the capacity of your business. So if you're looking for those higher dollar value contracts, it will really be in terms of identifying opportunities and taking a look at what the requirements are, because the requirements are specific to each opportunity. So sometimes a requirement can be experience. So you may have to have been in business for a year or for 2 years, or you may have to provide at least 3 references of work that you've done over the past few years. So each opportunity is really specific. In terms of tapping into our services and what would help you kind of help us, is if you prepare a list of the exact services that you offer, if you can navigate the buy and sell website just to get a sense of what type of opportunities exist, that can help you kind of launch that conversation. But in terms of setting yourself up for success is really to start bidding. If you're going to be bidding on competitive projects, is to get the process started. So you read through the tender documents, sign up for a webinar first, find out how that works, and then you can request, when you bid on an opportunity and you're not successful, or even if you are successful, you can request a bid follow-up meeting. So you can actually have a conversation with the contracting authority to find out either what went wrong or what you did right. So they can discuss the content of your bid and tell you, well, here you should have maybe elaborated a little bit more, or it may be your price was too high, or so they can talk about your bid specifically. So that's a really good tool to kind of get you practicing, because not every supplier is going to win their first bid. It takes practice. And then in terms of those lower dollar value contracts, it's really using the tools on buy and sell to find out who issues contracts in your area, and then really networking, promoting your business, not being scared to pick up the phone and calling those government procurement people. So that would be probably my suggestions. Can you share some of the small businesses that have been successful receiving bids or funding? So our department doesn't offer funding. That's not something that we do. We really offer contracting opportunities. I have a recent example. I don't remember the business's name, but she makes specialty maple syrup, and they age maple syrup. She's an Indigenous business owner, and she makes maple syrup, and they age it in these oak barrels. But we met at a trade show, and off the top of my head, I was like, I don't know if we buy maple syrup, but in fact we do. And so we buy maple syrup for the military bases. We buy all kinds of food for them. And so I was able to have a conversation with the people who buy that in our region, and she ended up getting a contract. So and that's the thing that's important to know, is that we buy almost everything. So it's a matter of visiting the buy and sell website and reaching out to us.
That's interesting. It's interesting to know, because I was just about to ask, like, what is the spectrum of services and products that you buy, because we have quite a wide variety of businesses represented. Even here, we have food. There's Nettie here that sells a hot sauce, gourmet hot sauce. We have self-care wellness products here. We have wellness products, HR services, virtual assistant consultant services, and a lot of that. So it's just really understanding the spectrum of business and products, or services and products that the government of Canada would engage in, just so that the women, the small businesses here know how they fit in?
On the buy and sell website, on that top menu where I showed the 4 businesses menu item, there's also a procurement data menu item, and you can view past contract history. So there's a section there that's called contract history, and you can see contracts that have been awarded by our department. And you can see the value of the contract. You can see who was awarded that contract. And that's also something that we can do. So it's a matter of sending an email and saying, hey, can we have a brief conversation? I want to let you know what it is that we sell, and I want to know if you guys have enough. So HR services, we buy a lot of HR services for sure, just off the top of my head like that. And it's always something that I have to turn around and do some research, because I'm not a subject matter expert in everything that we buy. So that's what we have access to, those people, so we can ask the right people those questions and find out what's the best way to get you guys set up to do business with the government of Canada.
Yeah, I guess that directly answers Kadine's question, which is, would coaching or facilitation be something that might be considered? Because I believe she's into HR as well, so that just helps answer that question. And also,
yeah, absolutely, coaching and facilitation is something that we do purchase. Yes.
Awesome, Kadine, there you go. But I also think it's helpful that directory of existing or past contracts is there, just so that we can see how we fit, or we align with what the government of Canada buys. And then also the directory of OSME officials that you mentioned, that we can just call and get answers to these questions.
Yeah.
And then also another question here from Merlene. Are there procurement services targeted specifically to women business owners as well, or it's a general thing?
So there are a few, there have been a few pilot programs specifically for women in business. It's not something that is, so there may be requirements within a tender document that, so for example, I've seen it for construction contracts where they get additional points if they offer, if some of their subcontractors are women. So there are different initiatives that are there. It is something that we're really working on through the different, because we don't have a lot of data to kind of back that up. So it's something that we're definitely working on, and supplier diversity is something that is important. We're going to be launching a coaching pilot for women in business as well. There are things that are in the works right now specifically, yes.
All right, thank you so much for that. We also have another question here from Claudia. How many Blacks are in your office, and what percentage does that reflect?
So in my office specifically in OSME, we have one Black outreach officer out of, we're 4 in our region. So that's 25%. I'm not sure about the demographics of the other regions, though. Unfortunately, I don't have that information.
And I guess you wouldn't have the information as well for the supplier database, because you mentioned that they're still being gathered.
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunately, it's not something that we have. So procurement data has only been collected on key socioeconomic groups that have established definitions under rights under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. So Indigenous people, women. We also have minority groups, or visible minority, and Black-owned businesses fall into that. But in terms of this new Black entrepreneurship program, Statistics Canada, along with our department, are committed and will be improving the targeted data collection in order to be able to measure progress on the various diversity, inclusion policies and programs and initiatives that exist. So it's something that we know we need to do, and something that we will be working on, definitely. I wish I could answer that question. I wish, but we don't have the data to give you that information, unfortunately.
All right, thank you. There's also another question about the common pitfalls that small businesses make in the process of bidding. What are the common pitfalls that you see, and how can they be avoided?
Who asked that question? The common what?
That was sent me privately. The pitfalls that are encountered during bidding from businesses.
Okay. That's a good question. So sometimes, so the bid document needs to be signed. The signature page the box is on that first page. And sometimes we receive bids that don't have a signature, so we can't accept them for that. All bid documents will have mandatory criterias. Mandatory means mandatory. So if you don't meet one of them, or you don't respond to one of them, your bid will be declared non-responsive. And that's a common reason for a bid not being responsive, is missing out or not giving enough information on those mandatory requirements. There will also be a section in a bid document that is for certification. So there's different certifications or documents that need to be filled out and signed. And we receive bids that are missing that information. And also bids not being, there's a closing deadline for bid opportunities. There's always a closing date, and bids received after the closing date are usually declared non-responsive. So those are probably the main kind of reasons. Also, it's important not to assume that whoever's evaluating the bid understands your business and knows what it is that they're buying, because they're not always subject matter experts in the commodity that they're buying. So it's important to go into detail and not assume that we know what that means or what that technology is or what this process is, or that we know who you are. So it's important to go into detail when you need to explain what it is that you do, how you do it, and the services that you have to offer. And yeah, going through the attention to detail. So going through the instructions and making sure that you answer each item.
Awesome. Another question, or rather, I should follow up on that question. So in terms of making sure that all, paying attention, all details, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. You also mentioned that there is a one-on-one assistance that your office gives. Is this something that is the assistance extended to business during this bid process, or is just an inquiry kind of thing and you don't do any one-on-one walk through the bid process? Like maybe just give in more detail what the one-on-one process is like.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the one-on-one sessions are really to provide you with general information. So we can go through, for example, an expired tender document and kind of walk through that process with you. But once there's an active tender posted on the buy and sell website, we can't provide any advice and guidance. And that's really to make sure that the process remains open, fair, and transparent. So essentially, every tender document, every opportunity will have a contracting authority, the name of a person, a contracting authority listed on there. And they're the only person who can answer questions and provide guidance. And it's important to note that we encourage that you ask them questions. So if there are any errors in a solicitation document, if something isn't clear, if you don't understand how the bids are being evaluated, or you need clarification on anything, you can ask questions to the contracting authority, and the bid document will have instructions on how to ask questions. So you need to ask them usually it's by email, and you need to submit questions so many days before the bid closing date. The contracting authority will take a look at those questions, will draft responses, and then will attach it to the tender page as an amendment so that everybody who's interested in that contracting opportunity has access to the same information. So any information given to you is given to everybody else who may be interested in an opportunity. So there are no stupid questions. We encourage that people ask questions to clarify the bid documents, clarify requirements, clarify evaluation processes, but it just needs to be done in the manner stipulated in the solicitation document. And then the one-on-one sessions can kind of be more of a preparation sessions in terms of understanding the different parts of a solicitation document and what is required. And then we can go through tips and tricks in terms of, preparing a good bid and what to look out for.
Awesome, thank you. One question, do they all have to be registered? All businesses?
So we will only do businesses who are registered with the Canada Revenue Agency. Absolutely. You don't have to be registered. You generally don't have to be registered to bid on an opportunity, but once a contract is awarded, you need a procurement business number in order to do business with us. So it's just for us to pay you, and it's linked to your CRA business number as well. So you don't have to be registered to search for opportunities on buy and sell, but in order to get a contract and get paid, you do need to be registered, yes.
All right, I think we have one more question here, except someone else comes in. What is the process for retaining suppliers? Do they always have to bid every time for every opportunity, or do you have a supplier database that you share new opportunities with before it goes public? What's the process for retaining suppliers?
So it depends on the value of the contract. So those lower dollar value contracts, so under $25,000 for goods, under $40,000 for services, we can do research. Some departments will have internal databases that they use. They can do, we'll find companies in the region that offers that, send out an email, say, these are the requirements, give us a bid. And then some departments have internal lists of potential suppliers as well. So that's why promoting and networking, if you're looking at those lower value contracts, is important. Competitive procurement, it depends. So we have, as I mentioned, standing offers and supply arrangements. So standing offers are for goods and services that are predetermined and have fixed prices. So for example, we have a standing offer, as I mentioned, for food, for D&D. We know that we buy them on a regular basis. So we're not going to issue a request for proposal or an invitation to tender each time we need to. So what we do is we issue a request for standing offer. We will, and there's specific requirements in order to become pre-qualified. And so you respond to those requirements and you give us a price. And then we go through that, evaluate them, and we pre-qualify a certain amount of suppliers on that standing offer for that specific good or service. And then we issue what's called a call-up. So we issue a contract when a need comes up for that good or that service to one of the pre-qualified suppliers. And the way that we decide who's going to get the contract is explained in the request for standing offer document that you use to bid on the opportunity. We also have supply arrangements, as I mentioned, which are used to solicit bids and pre-qualify suppliers on supply arrangement. And that is for goods and services where we don't know what the exact requirements are. So for example, for HR services, we know we buy all kinds of HR services, but we don't know what the specific tasks are going to be. So we can pre-qualify a whole bunch of businesses on an HR supply arrangement. And then when a department has a specific need, we'll issue an RFP, so a request for proposal, to the businesses who are pre-qualified on that supply arrangement. And they're the only people who can bid on that opportunity. So they tell us how they can meet those requirements and they tell us for what price. And then we evaluate those applications and issue a contract to the winning supplier. So there's different ways, there's different databases for professional services specifically. And that's something that I would encourage you to discuss with OSME to identify which database would be best for you to register for, specifically for professional services.
That's amazing. Thank you. I do have one question, and that's around bidding cycles. Does OSME have like bidding cycles at the peak periods where there's a ton of bidding that are asked for? So what are those time frames in the year that small businesses should look forward to and anticipate and get their proposals ready?
Okay, so I know a lot of buying happens right now just because we're getting close to the end of fiscal. So the government works from April, our fiscal year is from April to March. And so a lot of the requirements right now are being posted for contracts to close up until the end of the fiscal year. But in terms of, so for standing offers, for example, standing offers and supply arrangements are good for a certain number of years. And the document's going to tell you this, for example, this standing offer is good for 2 years with the option of extending for another 2 years. And then if you find a standing offer for something that you offer, you can kind of anticipate when they're going to go back, when they're going to open that back up in order to pre-qualify suppliers by looking at those dates. Some of the bigger supply arrangements for professional services have quarterly refreshes. So right now we're accepting applications up until the end of December for the pro services supply arrangement, which covers all professional services that are not IT related. We are accepting bids until the end of this year, until December 31st, I believe it is. And then we evaluate those bids that we'll receive, and contracts are issued or supply arrangements are issued by end of March. So they work on a quarterly basis. So it depends on the tool, on the method that we use to buy those goods or services. But by looking what exists, you can kind of anticipate when they're going to open back up in terms of those pre-qualified suppliers. But in terms of RFPs, there may be a little bit more towards this time of year just because of the way our fiscal calendar works. But there are opportunities that are posted on a daily basis. Today, I think there are 800 active opportunities right now today on the buy and sell website, and that stays relatively the same.
Amazing. I know I said that question was the last one, but I have one more question that just came in, and it says, can U.S. companies bid for Canadian government contracts?
So there, yes, absolutely. There are opportunities that are open to businesses outside of Canada. The document, the bid solicitation document, will give more information on that. So sometimes there are Canadian content requirements where the product or the service has to have a certain amount of Canadian content within it. And it also, a lot of our procurement or most of our procurement activities are governed in certain part by trade agreements. So the trade agreements, whether internal or external, international trade agreements, have measures in them that tell if a contract is over a certain value, then it needs to be opened up to the international supplier community. So there are opportunities available for international businesses, and the buy and sell website will tell you who those opportunities are open to, essentially.
Amazing. I do have a question that kind of was at the back of my mind as well. And now MB asked the same question. And she says, if the bid amount is the same from two companies, how do you then decide which company receives the contract? So really, what makes companies stand out?
Okay, so that really depends on the So I'm not a procurement officer. That's not something that I do. I'm kind of more of a generalist. I've got a little bit of information on everything, but the bid document will likely tell you what happens in the instance of a tie, specifically when it comes to the lowest bidder. So if they all meet the mandatory criteria, and the bid is exactly the same, it's going to be explained in the solicitation document how they're going to select it. So I don't know if it's in terms of, I've seen one where, the first bid to come in is selected type of thing, if they're a tie, exactly. But the bid document will tell you how we're going to evaluate that. In the instances where the evaluation isn't based solely on the price, often it's a point rated evaluation. So we assign a number of points to each criteria and then a number of points to the price that you've submitted in your bid. And then there's a calculation, and that evaluation, the evaluation process and the selection process is all indicated in the solicitation document. So we tell you if it's point rated, how many points are assigned to each requirement. And then if you have any questions or it's not clear, because sometimes, especially when you're starting reading these bid documents, reach out to the contracting authority to get a better understanding. That's something that's very important for you to understand. You need to know how we're evaluating your bid in order to present the best bid.
And I assume that if a company wins like one bid, they can always come back to bid for other contracts as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been very helpful, just answering all our many questions. And I hope it's okay to also reach out to you if we have more questions.
Absolutely. I'm just going to pop in a few things here in the chat. If you guys, just a couple of resources. So that's the reference sheet. That is a really good tool to get you started. And then this will take you directly to our OSME page, where you can find the contact information. So the link didn't come up. So canada.ca/OSME will take you to the page for our page, I guess, and give you all of the regional contacts. So don't hesitate to reach out, register for webinars. Right now, the calendar is a little bit slim in terms, because we're kind of getting into the end of the year, but more are going to be populated as we move forward. So don't hesitate.
Thank you so much. This has been very, very helpful, very insightful. I was taking notes, and I'm sure a lot of our ladies here are taking notes as well. We'll look forward to doing business with the government in Canada. If not this year, then 2021 will be coming with full force.
Awesome.
So thank you. This has been very helpful. Thank you to Barish as well. I think he's also on this call. And so we'll let you go now. I know it's pretty late where you are, so thank you for staying through. Have a lovely evening.
It's my pleasure. Thank you guys for attending, and thank you for the great questions. Those were really awesome questions. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your session.
All right then.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies, for engaging and asking all your questions. This has been really insightful. I also learned a lot from all the questions that you were asking. So moving on, we have a very amazing resource person here that's just going to talk to us as well about resources in general to help the success of our small businesses, as well as the process of procurement, but from the private side. She was also an expert, a former procurement officer at Rogers, and now she is our executive director here at BBP. We are super grateful to have her. And so please, in a boss woman style, please welcome Frances Del Sol.
Thanks, Uju. It's Bell Canada, not Rogers.
Oh, Belle, sorry. I read you
That's
wrong.
okay. That's okay. That's okay. So you know, thanks for having me. You know, I was driving home and I thought between you and and Nadine and Michael, I'm not sure about this job that I accepted, but I'll take it. Um, so you asked me to speak today on private procurement. You just heard from the public side. My experience for 35 years is in private procurement. The big difference between private and public is that no information is public or legally needs to be shared except the RFP. So whereas on the public side, everything is public, when you deal in private procurement, nothing really needs to be shared except the RFP. So the discussions that are had behind the scenes, the decisions that are made don't really need to be shared with the general public. So in the process of procurement, I, as the procurement officer, the buyer, the chief procurement officer, my mandate is to streamline my organization's process and to achieve desired results. What are those results? I want to save cost. I want to reduce time in getting my product or my service. And I can do that in a number of ways. Vendor managed inventory, consignment just in time. And I want to build a win-win relationship with my suppliers. And then I want to tell you that procurement can be direct, it can be indirect, it can be reactive, it can be proactive in nature. We'll talk about that a little later on. But before we go further, I need to let you know that procurement is a relationship. There is a high element of trust, hence the continuity of business, or a high element of distrust. And you can imagine what happens there. There's bickering, there's haggling, there's suspicion. It does not bode well for a long-term relationship. One of the most important procurement best practices is the relationship between buyers and suppliers. Choosing a supplier based solely on price is ineffective, it is short-sighted, and it is not the norm in private procurement. Building a long-term relationship with a supplier is what most procurement offices seek because it is better, it provides better customer service, and it is more cost-effective over time. If the decision is based solely on price, and I stay on that because a lot of people think you really choose a supplier based on lowest price. If the decision is based solely on price, suppliers may change often, and there is a cost. It's detrimental to your organization to switch from business to business for any number of reasons. And changing suppliers on a regular basis may result in less reliable service. It can cost you more. You can miss your deadlines. You can have dissatisfied customers. And if you are one of those suppliers, chances are you will be permanently excluded from the supplier profile. Also, some lower price vendors may not stay in business very long. And then you have that risk of having to switch suppliers. So building a relationship with a steady supplier is a respectful business practice and something that can help your business gain concessions over the long term. At that point where you have become that supplier, that steady supplier, you become what is referred to in private procurement as a preferred supplier. And that is the position you mustn't take for granted. It will require you to keep working. It's like, you're preferred, but you don't just sit on your pedestal. You have to keep working on it to maintain that status. And at the end, I'll share with you some real life stories about how some suppliers have managed to keep that status. The other thing I want to talk to you about is e-procurement. Today, there is a strong possibility that you will not become a certified supplier if you cannot join the world of e-procurement. E-procurement is an electronic method of procuring services, and you on the other end as organizing your billing, your purchase orders, your profit and loss statements. So you have to be ready. When I started at Bell in oodles of years ago, I brought into Bell what we called a vendor managed inventory. And what that meant was it was new to the world. You had to bring your stuff into our warehouse. We didn't pay for it until we used it. Therefore, you had to have the e-procurement tool or the tool that at your back end in your warehouse, you were able to see the products in my warehouse, and you were able to see what I took on an as-need basis. So as I pulled your product, you billed me for it. I did nothing. You had that platform that allowed me to do that. But if you wanted to do business with Bell moving forward, you had to be to sign up for vendor managed inventory or consignment or just in time or something of that norm. Today it is the norm. It's not even something that is considered, well, maybe. You have to be part of that process if you want to continue. As a supplier, you need to understand what it is you sell in the procurement space. Are you an indirect supplier? Are you a direct supplier? Or are you a services supplier? And I've done all three. When I started at Bell, I started buying everything that the technician used to provide service to your home. If you think about his truck, everything in his truck. If you think about everything outside, the telephone pole, the cable, these are all direct goods and materials. That's direct procurement. It's raw materials, it's resale items. That drives profit because everything I bought there, every dollar I saved on the cost of that product, I saved $10 to the organization's bottom line. So that was driving the profits of the organization. That's direct procurement. That's goods and materials. And what that does too is also allows for a long-term relationship because that impacts the company's growth in revenue. Therefore, I want to make sure that I am very close to those suppliers. There is indirect procurement, which I also bought, which is services like facilities management, logistics, and travel. I did that as well. So that takes care of the day-to-day operations in the organization. It's consumables, it's short-term. That you could change suppliers there more frequently, but it also bodes well for you to develop a relationship with your suppliers and have preferred suppliers in that space. And then there is services procurement, which is contingent work, consulting services, professional services, workforce, and that kind of stuff. These are usually one-off suppliers and contractual relationships. These are not necessarily long-term, but you need to know what you are selling. Is it direct? Is it a direct good or service? Is it raw materials, machinery? Is it an indirect service? Is it like facilities management, travel, benefits, advertising, marketing, all fall under indirect procurement? Or is it a service? Are you providing consulting services, contingent services, workforce services? These are the three different types of procurement. What does the procurement flow look like? So to keep the procurement management process fair, transparent, and efficient, you must have a good understanding of the procurement process flow. A company issues a request for proposal, or a request for quotation, or a request for information. And again, keep in mind, this is private purchasing, not government purchasing. This happens after internally we've met and we've done what is called a needs analysis. What do we need? How much money do we have? Who are the suppliers out there who will provide it? Let's do a value analysis. Let's determine what it is we need before we go out to the market. And we issue then an RFP on an e-commerce platform. Here again, we go back to the e-commerce platform. We then say I'm issuing this RFP, there's a blackout period, no communication with vendors on this RFP, nobody in the procurement department except the person who's directly responsible. You've received the bid, you respond to the bid, you ask all relevant questions on that e-commerce platform. And because you've asked a question, the buyer answers the response and everybody sees the answer. They don't necessarily know who provides the question, but everybody sees, because there ought to be no one-on-one relationship now because we are in an RFP process. It has to be clean, it has to be clear, it has to be honest. So there are no private conversations allowed, even if you are the incumbent. The other thing that the public procurement person spoke about is you have to respect the close date. In our industry, if we receive bids, if it says your bid closes today at noon and we receive it at 12 minutes after noon, 5 minutes after noon, it is returned to sender. It is not opened. You have to respect that you have to get the bid on time and you have to answer all relevant questions. Don't assume that they will know what you mean. Don't avoid using acronyms because you use acronyms in your business, especially if you're responding to a bid in the I don't want to say in the telecom space. There's a lot of acronyms in that space. You don't want to assume that the buyer knows what you're talking about. So you have to respond to all the questions, answer, make sure you answer and even provide more information that is required. But you must respond to every question and you must respond before the due dates. One of the, once this bid is officially closed, the procurement team and the evaluation team will determine who is the right supplier or suppliers, who is the best fit to fulfill that need. There may be a series of interviews and phone calls regarding pricing, product delivery, and answers to your questions to the RFP. Be prepared to explain your response. That's where a high element of trust is built. It's like any interview process. If you can't answer, then I can't believe that you can provide the product. So let us fast forward and you make the grade. And the buyer and the team likes your proposal and you're awarded the contract because it is felt you're the right supplier with the right process and the right price, delivering at the right time. Those rights are very important when we do an evaluation. Once you're selected and the contract negotiation and signing is completed, a contract is issued. This can be a lengthy process, and we encourage the other party to seek a lawyer, because a legally binding process, after you've received that legally binding contract, a PO will be activated, and that is only when the procurement process officially begins. We've signed a contract, we issue a PO, the procurement process officially begins with that purchase order for the goods or the services. The PO will have some of the terms and conditions on the contract. The process has begun, but I'm telling you, it is important that you honor your pricing, your delivery time that you promised, everything that you promised, because if you didn't, what will happen is you will eventually lose your preferred supplier process. So I want to share with you some stories on some. I'll remove the names to protect the innocent. But one supplier who is still with the company after almost 38 years, I went on an RFP. I didn't know them. I didn't know that supplier at all, but they responded to a bid, and the incumbent had been there for 15 years. And I saw the bid and I thought, that's rather odd. How could they provide those products at those prices? I called them in and I tried to talk to them, and they said, yeah, we can provide the product. I went back to the incumbent who had been there for 15 years, and I said, I am confused about your pricing. Can we talk? And that incumbent had been so entrenched, but had relationships with other management personnel and up to senior management, that they felt they were comfortable and would not budge. And so after 15 years, I advised them that they were losing the contract. And they went up to senior management and escalated a complaint against me. But I knew I had a good ground to stand on, because I had done my due process. I had gone through the process of understanding what it is the supplier was offering me. And so I was able to say how I could save on a small contract $1.2 million. And so that supplier, when I gave them the contract, I said, they say to this day, thank you, Frank, it's because of you we got in. But it's not because of me, it's because they had the right product, the right price, and the right service. And I said, for you to be there long term, even after I leave, and I was no longer buying in direct procurement after the first 10 years. I said, you have to maintain that relationship. And what they do is they came to us and said, I know that so and so can sell you this product for a lot less. We cannot, and here is why. Our supplier is in China. Our supplier is in this part of the world, and it's costing us this. And when they come to you and explain why it is they can't give you that product, you have a relation. That is what relationships are about. Remember, I talked about relationship, but they always came to me and said, Fran, here is why we can't do this, but we can do this on that. And we talked about the fact that when you have a long-term preferred supplier, there can be compromises and they can help you reduce your pricing. They helped us reduce even where they could not give us lower pricing. There is the same thing can be said about another supplier we have in the US that provides us a direct service. They came to us, they always come to us when we have shortages. We had shortages in the 90s, and they came and said, because you have been so good to us, because we have a relationship with you, we will provide you the product before anybody else. And so when you have a preferred supplier, that's what happens. When you have shortages in supply, they give you priority. The last one I want to talk about is a big Canadian company that very early came to me and offered me a bribe. So you as a procurement, yes, you as a supplier need to be careful that you don't offer procurement people bribes, because that can remove you permanently from that list of I'm not saying that all procurement people do that, but I can tell you that that supplier was permanently removed and never got back into our business and was never able to sell to us again. Because some people think that by doing that, they can get into the supplier family. You have to be careful. You have to get there on your own accord. You can do it, but you've got to understand the bid. You've got to understand what is required. You've got to respond to the bid accordingly. There is two questions I want to talk about. Can there be a conflict of interest situation with any supplier? Of course there is. You, Uju, may have a company, and your brother may work for the procurement department. You need to say that. You need to be clear. You need to identify that conflict from the onset. That will not exclude you. All that will mean is that this individual will be removed and has no access to the bid, so we know that the process is clear and transparent. If you are not selected, can you seek to better understand? it is not very common in private procurement that it's not even necessary that I must tell you why you were rejected. It is something that I always endorse because I think it helps people move forward. So I would give people as much information as I can without putting myself or the organization at risk as to why the decision was made. So there is always the opportunity that you can go back without being seen as annoying or a pain and say it really is to, just like in an interview, I just need to understand how I could have done better. And so you can always ask that question. Is in how you ask that buyers don't have their backs against the wall because they don't want to always say why it is they made a decision, because again, it is a private decision. So again, I'm going to tell you, procurement is a relationship. It is better to under-promise. Keep in mind your agreement. Under-promise, but always keeping in mind your agreement, and over-deliver. That is what is going to get you as retained as a preferred supplier. So that's the beat on private procurement. I want to also talk to you. I want to tell you about the great things we're doing at BBPA. If you haven't already signed up and got your membership, please do. We have we opened a pop-up shop where we're featuring 10 of our Black entrepreneurs. It's at 2577 Yonge Street. There's no walk-in because of the lockout, but go online on the Little Jamaica website and help support our Black entrepreneurs. Buy the products. We will have it ready for you to pick up instead of going and spending money at other institutions. Support your Black entrepreneurs. We have a lot of products that you can buy and give to your friends for Christmas. We are opening a space on Little Jamaica, because as you well know, on Little Jamaica, many of our businesses are shuttered and are struggling. We're opening a safe space at 1502 Eglinton Avenue West, hopefully within the next week or so, where the businesses can come in, sit, relax, and tell us what it is that we can do for them. And we will help them through the BADES program, which is the Business Advisory Implementation Services program, where we're going to handhold our Black businesses, help them through the process so they can thrive. What we want to do is start them off from the beginning, take them all the way to the end with the help of consultants and mentors. And then all we ask of you after we've given you this is come back and hold the hand of one of the people who are at that back end now doing the business plan. So go on the BBPA website and get a little about this. And I heard Nadine speak about the Rise Up, the pitch competition. Hey, listen, what have you got to lose? Join. Loblaw is excited. We're doing great things with Loblaw. Loblaw is doing, come the spring, we're going to be doing a virtual fair where we're going to, again, you're going to be bringing your products and they're going to help you from a category management, from a marketing perspective and all that stuff. Stay tuned to the BBPA for a whole lot of things we're offering. And again, where you can support us, share us on social media. Do what you can because we are the organization that is going to move our community forward. Thanks for giving me the opportunity, Uju.
Awesome. See why she's ED? This is super amazing. I love how she just went from procurement and just plugged right into BBPA programs and upcome, like so seamless. Thank you so much. The next 6 months for BBPA is really going to be so packed, just offering value, offering service, just offering as much value as we can to both our businesses in the community and also professionals, because that's really the audience that we're targeting. And so I would really encourage every single one of us here, and even other people that are not here but you have contact with, just connect with them, let them know of all the opportunities that are available, follow us on social media, always go on the website and see the new programs that are on. If you haven't registered for BADES yet, please do. It's literally a one-on-one program where you're really handheld through every business problem or challenge that you might be going through. If we don't have the resource in-house at BBPA, we have a plethora of consultants, professionals, and mentors that have signed up to really help every business and every entrepreneur that is signed on. Also for the Rise Up Pitch competition, like Fran said, please register and put in your business. I mean, it's $10,000, yo. Like, I wish I had a business. I was definitely going to put in my name in there because I know what I could do with $10,000. So please fill out your application on there. And then I also wanted to talk about next week's Boss Women. Fran talked a lot about relationship and relationship management, which is what we'll be delving more into next week. In terms of procurement, your business might be the really most perfect, but just in answer to one of the questions that was raised about if two businesses have the same pricing, the same processes, and also promise to deliver at the same time, then what tilts the scale in favor of one? I can just imagine that is relationship, right? So you always want to keep those doors open. You always want to, and nobody's saying be fake about it or kiss ass and all of that. No, it's always good to be your authentic self. Manage relationship in the best way that you know how, and of course I'm Christian, so there's a part of the Bible that always says your gifts will make room for you. So all of this would always make room for you. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I hope that you learned a lot. I did, from Fran and also from Jacinth from the Government of Canada, would share the resources once it's like the presentation once it's given to us. So thank you so much. If you have any questions for Fran, please just drop in the chat. But if there are no questions, this would be the time to say good night and see you next Tuesday.